It was Tuesday, and nothing ever happened good for Sally on Tuesdays. She'd had a lot of Tuesdays in her life, whatever 7 times 27 is, but she had never had good luck on a Tuesday. Every Tuesday, however, she was sure it was going to be different. She had heard that the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, but she thought every single Tuesday, with her beautiful, bright optimism and her bow in her hair, that this Tuesday would absolutely have to be different. And so she walked out her front door and she locked it behind her and she headed out into her day. And the very first thing she saw was
a bus seat advertisement for a new museum in her town. And she thought, well, this may be it. This is a novel thing in my life. It's a different Tuesday experience. Let's go to the museum, she offered to herself. And off she went. So Sally found the new museum, which is known as Contemporary Oddities. And she went up the stairs to open the door, but
there was a guy standing right in front of her, and she couldn't quite reach around him to get into the door. She couldn't figure out what this guy was doing. I mean, why would someone be standing right in front of the door? So she said kind of demurely, excuse me, sir, I'd like to go in. And he turned around and he looked at her. He gave her this really funny kind of look. You know, those kind of looks that say there's something not really right with this person, but not in the way like he's going to hurt you, but like he might keel over any minute because he's not feeling well. But he didn't say anything. He just kind of stood there looking not completely well. And so Sally
asked him, "Sir, are you okay?" Thinking in the back of her mind, oh no, not again. But feeling like maybe she could get through this. And he was gray and sweaty and kind of clutching his chest. And she tried to ignore it, but she could not. And she said again, sir, are you okay? And he kind of murmured, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she thought, no. But she grabbed her cell phone and she dialed 911 and she tried to calm him as she sat him down on the steps in front of the museum. She thought, well, if I wait for them to come, then I can go to this museum and I can salvage Tuesday. So she sat with him and made him comfortable. And as soon as the EMT arrived in the ambulance, there was also this
sudden fear that took Sally, that this gentleman might actually die. And it hadn't crossed her brain until then that this guy who looked like he was ill and might possibly having a heart attack might not be around minutes hence. So Sally doubled down her attention and asked the guy who was ailing, what's your name? And he was able to croak out, Travis. Sally thought, Travis, great. The EMTs are here. And the EMTs rushed over. They could see he was the man in distress. And
they got him on the cart. They got him into the ambulance and they started to take off and close that door. And Sally heard out of the inside of that ambulance, her name being called. And she tried to stop him. She tried to run up to the door and knock on him and see what this guy wanted and see if she really could do something to help him. But they were starting to take off. And so she didn't have any option. She just had to stick out her thumb and try to follow that ambulance. She tried to catch a car. Well, that's not that easy to do downtown in Minneapolis on a busy Tuesday afternoon, right in front of the museum that's just opened up and people are stopping to come in. No one really wants to pick you up. Now, these are the days before Uber and Lyft, so she couldn't use her cell phone to call them up. So she really felt she had no other choice but to.
But to start walking. She realized while she was thumbing a ride for a car that she had not told this man her name. And she could not believe that he could intuit or somehow knew that her name was Sally. And she wondered if she had met him before, if she had not paid close enough attention to see the look on his face and who he was, because she was so afraid. And so as she walked, she kept her thumb out in downtown Minneapolis on the way to the hospital, only 2 miles away. And finally, someone picked her up. The car door opened and smoke billowed out. Sally thought, I don't know if this is actually my ride. And it is a Tuesday, but she needed to get to the hospital. So she hopped inside, and the guy inside said, hey, honey, my name's Jake. And she said, well, hello, Jake. I really hope you're willing to take me to the hospital. And Jake said, I am, but.
On the way, we'll get to know each other a little bit. You're cute. I picked you up because you caught my eye. Sally was not yet incensed, but she was on her way. She was trying to get to a hospital to check on someone who hauntingly was in her brain somewhere, but she couldn't put the synapses together to connect it. So she said, thank you, Jake. I've got a boyfriend and I've got to go find him in the hospital. She lied straight through her teeth, but Jake kind of bought it and said, all right, St. Luke's, guessing which hospital it would be. And Sally thought quickly, that has to be the closest one. So yes, St. Luke's. And Jake said, okay, I'll take you. Then.
So she rolled down the window and they were off. The smoke was still bad, but at least it was a little bit easier to breathe with the window down. And they got there. Well, it wasn't in record time, but they got there. And that's all she really cared about. She popped out of the car, said, thanks, Jake. And that was it. And boy, she never wanted to see him again. And headed up the stairs to the hospital, into the door, and asked about this guy who had just been brought in the emergency room. His name was Travis, she said. And could she see him? And they had no record of him. Well, of course they didn't, because he had just come in. So she ran around to the side to get to the emergency entrance. And there he was, laying on a gurney, still in the waiting room, but with tubes running into his arm, and doctors starting to come out and check on him. And she said, Travis. And he kind of looked over at her and said,
Sally, do you remember me? I can't believe it's been all this time and this is how you're seeing me. I feel as though I might die, Sally. I've never felt so weak in my entire life. Do you remember Sally? 2nd grade, Foursquare. Do you remember? And immediately Sally was taken back. Foursquare in 2nd grade. Travis, crush on Sally. She wore a bow in her hair then too. And he would tease her about it and pull it out and then give it back. And Sally said, yes, Travis. And today is not your day to die. Because Tuesday is my bad day and you can't have it. And Travis said, Sally, what in the hell are you talking about? Sally said to Travis, well, I remember you so well, and just seeing you and knowing who you are delights my heart. And so I think you'll have to stay. But
she wasn't willing to leave that up to the gods of luck. She wanted to make sure Travis would be okay. So to ensure that she had the bad day and not Travis, she reached for anything around her, grabbed a coffee cup, one of those vending machine coffee cups in a hospital that had cold, half-filled coffee, and she threw it on her own blouse. And then she purposely crossed the room and tripped herself, so she fell. And she did scrape her knees a little bit. Then she got up, looked at Travis, who smiled. And she thought, I'm on the right track. I got to make sure my day is so bad that Travis clearly will have a good one. So then
they were rolling Travis into the emergency room. And she grabbed his hand and squeezed it as he was going in and said, Travis, you're going to make it. This is going to be your day, and I'm going to see you in a couple hours. And she did.